So the final part of it, well, not even the application process, the one thing you have to do after that's all in is often you get invited to sit with an alumni and undertake a college interview.
Yeah.
So I'm gathering both of you went through that process. Can you describe, it sounds scary, but is it as scary as it sounds, or?
Oh yeah, mine was great. I remember I got the call one morning, I just woke, it actually woke me up, the phone call, and I picked it up, random number, thought it might be a telemarketer or something. I was like, hello, and it's like, hi, I'm David, I'm an alumni from Penn, I'm going to be doing an interview. And it's like, quickly, wake up, like, oh, yeah, something. So, when I remember, it was in the city, in the Chifley Tower, so this big corporate area, and I was just like in my little outfit, thousands of people walking past. I was so nervous, I remember. And then this guy came up to me, young guy, 20, late 20s, he was like, hi, I'm David. And literally, I prepared all these Penn-related questions and all these things, and we just had a chat. I mean, he really just gauged who I am as a person, and that was, that was completely unexpected for me. But I mean, I had a lot of people tell me before, don't stress it out, don't overthink it, because at the end of the day, it's not that big of a deal, and they're not going to quiz. They're not here to get rid of you. They're here to get to know you. Yeah.
Right. I think it's. From what I know, it's as much as an opportunity for you to ask questions.
Yeah, exactly. And he was actually really helpful. He was like, anytime you want to know anything, just let me know. And after the interview, he helped me. He gave me a lot more clarity, and we sort of really wanted to do a similar path. So it was really awesome in that as well. Yeah.
And what about your Duke one, Allie?
I think the alumni interview, something to note is that I think they're important. They are for sure important, but they do not make or break when you get to school. If you completely obviously if you completely bomb it and you're you say nothing, you're actually I don't want to go to Penn, just do it just for the fun of it. They're gonna be like, oh, maybe not. But for the alumni interviews, I think, like Chris said, they're just there to talk to you. They're there to get to know you. They're there to help you. They're there to make sure that cool, you're actually the person who you're saying
put a
you
face
are.
to the
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think for me, I had a chat to an alumni from Duke, and he was really, really lovely. And I think that it definitely was just also a way of them getting to know me. Like Chris, I was very nervous, But I think honestly, once you go through it, it kind of ends, and you're wasn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be.
It goes very quickly.
It's very, very quickly. Not actually. I know some people who actually haven't had an alumni interview and still gotten into schools and stuff like that.
Yeah, so they're not. To clarify, it's not absolutely mandatory.
Exactly, and as well because also we're international students. Some people will just call you. They'll do a Skype call. I know one of my friends did a bunch of Skype calls with different people, and as well some places just you won't be able to. There just might not be an alumni in your area or one that isn't available to do it with you. So it's it definitely, I think some schools, it is a popular thing to have alumni interviews for sure. But don't worry if you've applied and you don't get a call and you're they don't want to do an interview with you. Sometimes just check their website, make sure that everything's as it should be.
Yes.
If there isn't, give them a call. They're happy to help you. I spoke to so many. I called, emailed so many admissions officers, just being hi, can I just get a clarification on this? And they were always so warm and lovely back, and being hi, so glad to hear from you. Crazy that you're from Australia. They're so into it. They love it.
It's lovely.
Yeah.
So then I guess the other side of the coin is if you do get asked to have one, Chris, you probably agree, don't run from it. Take the opportunity because it's not as scary as it sounds.
And do not freak out like Allie and I did. So it really is not that big of a deal. And actually, in terms of the whole application itself, I wouldn't say it's one of the biggest factors as well. So really, don't freak out. It is sort of the last piece of the puzzle at the end of it, and you're I really don't want to start this up at the end. But I mean, seriously, just relax a little bit.
Well, given all you've been through, could you perhaps summarise, both of you having worked with Crimson, how did they help you, not just with the specifics of perhaps the application process, but I guess in regard to somebody who has your back and with the moral support, how would you describe your experience of working with Crimson?
I have to say that I think that Crimson was a massive part of my acceptance into Duke and into another school.
Yeah.
But if into the schools I would have gotten into, in general, into Duke, they were a massive part of that. They played a massive role. I think the difference with Crimson is that the tutors and the mentors and everyone you work with, I think they have a genuine interest and a genuine care in your progress and how you do as an applicant. And I think as well, the main thing is that, they understand, they get it. They're not there trying to sculpt you into this person, this applicant that they think you should be. They're there to mold and fit the schools to you. And I think a lot of students realize that once they work with Crimson, then maybe the school schools that they thought that they would like be that they would want to go to
Yes.
aren't necessarily the schools that they think they're going to go to. And I think that that's really valuable because Crimson provides that kind of strategic, really invaluable insight into an area of the application that you really just don't get as a new, fresh applicant student. Like no one in my family or anyone that I have close
personal experience as well. They've been
exactly. A lot of these, exactly. Like my SA tutor Caitlin, she went to Northwestern as an undergrad and then went to Harvard graduate school, I believe. And my tutor Brian went to my strategist. Brian went to Harvard, and he's fantastic. Great guy. But I think that they definitely provide you with this insight and make you realize that there are a lot more different avenues than you originally thought, and that it's not one way to approach the application that you're going to get in. And I think they really help you. They bring out your strengths and bring out the parts of you that are really valuable and really helpful and will make a really strong application. And they just help you to communicate that in the best way. They don't cut things out. They don't say, if you really want to include something, I think that's stupid, that kind of stuff. They just help you communicate what you want to communicate in the best way. And I think that's so invaluable because so many other services and so many other places would just tear you apart and try and build you back up as this person that they think is right. But Crimson does not do that at all.
Yeah, they're respecting the process.
For sure.
They want you to represent yourself and have your own personal voice. Yeah, exactly. I think in your case, Chris, didn't you once say that you never perhaps dreamed that you'd be accepted into Ivy League, and Crimson gave you the confidence to realise that you're more than capable of doing so.
I did really underestimate Crimson, so to say, when I first heard about it, and I was like, consulting firm, what really can they change about your application, so to say. But I heard it like it was over Skype and online. I'd never done anything like that before, so that's why I was a bit nervous about it all, and I really did underestimate it. But they've done this a lot, and in terms of that, they know how strong your application stands, and they can give you a realistic gauge on what universities you should and shouldn't apply to. Additionally, where you're talking about, beyond the specifics and how well they really help you with, your essays and academics and stuff, I think, I really developed great relationships with my, all the people that were involved in my team, and I thought, we were, it was literally, they did it around your time, and year 12 is a very stressful time, and things, I heard of Max, who's another student, he was Skyping his SA mentor when he was right in the midst of his application process, and he was at his Thanksgiving thing, his mentor. So they really do become, you sort of do really develop a friendship with them, and they really do become invested in your application. They really do suit their time around you. So it was really flexible, really helpful. It just saved my application. So to say.
And you work with the CEO of Crimson and the founder, Jamie Beaton, right?
I was very fortunate enough to work with the co-founder, Jamie Beaton. He was just an amazing guy. Like, you watch him read and he's just like, boom, on it. And I was just like, yep. So I was so thankful to have him as well, because he's the guy he's the top gun.
Harvard, Stanford, Oxford.
He got in all of them. So it was also very good to have that confidence that there is someone of that caliber looking over your application, and you're not going astray, because he knows what's right, he knows what's wrong, and he's not going to let you turn something in that's just not going to get you anywhere.
And you guys are about to head off on this big new adventure in your life, but I guess you could think of the Crimson tutors and mentors who come from all over the world and have gone to some of these best universities as the start of your global network of friends, right?
For sure, I definitely agree. I think that the thing is with Crimson, and it does sound cliche, but they become more like friends than like people you're working with. Like I remember so many times like something exciting would happen, or I'd think of an idea and I'd go to my meeting with my essay mentor Caitlin, I'd be like, I had this great idea, and she'd be like, that's so cool, and we just talk about things. I know my literature tutor for my SAT subject test, I sat literature as one of the exams. Maya, she was really great, and we got on really well, and we had this one day where we spent probably about like 20 minutes just talking about all of our favorite books, and we found that we had a really like both similar interest in like variations of like Jane Austen novels, and it was just really silly, but definitely like something that made it so enjoyable and had a lot of laughs, and I think that it made the whole process a lot more of a lighter experience, and I think it's definitely a relief for the type of stress that you experience during
Absolutely.
the HSC.
They do look after you, and
Like,
they're great people.
Yeah,
So,
for sure. I think that Crimson really does like differentiate itself in that, and I think that they are really like invaluable in what they offer and what they've given both of us.
Actually invested in you doing well, which
Yeah,
is great.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when you found out you got into Penn and Duke, you must have wanted to get on the phone to them.
Oh yeah, I've emailed them straight
I
away.
called Jeffrey. I'm like, hey man.
Probably they would be shouting on the other
Yeah,
end of the
yeah.
phone.
Yeah,
Everyone was
they
ecstatic,
were so
yeah.
happy. Yeah, I have a video that if any of you guys want to check out the Crimson Instagram page, you'll probably see me
I
crying.
didn't record one, yeah.
No, but I have a video of me crying when I found out I got into Duke, and I sent it to Brian, who is my strategist, and his reaction was just like, oh my gosh, like that's so funny, that's amazing, like oh, made me so emotional watching you. I can see how
They're
happy you
genuinely
are.
invested.
Yeah, it's not just like another
yeah.
tick. They're like, yes,
Yeah,
go on.
he was like, yeah, and stuff,
Exactly.
and no, he's such a great guy, and they're all such great people, and definitely really helpful. I think one other thing that I wanted to say about the Crimson thing is that the experience is so flexible. Like, it's not this one set package that you have to get a tutor and a strategist and an extracurricular person and an essay person. You get what you need, like in terms of what they offer you. So for me, I had already sat my ACT before I actually came to Crimson. I needed a tutor for my SATs 2 test, so I had them. I also had a strategist, Brian, who helped me with my schools, the schools I was selecting, Caitlin, who helped with my essays. But by the time I got to that point, I didn't really need an extracurricular person to work with me because they'd already done majority of my extracurriculars, and so I didn't really need someone to help me craft anything or build anything else. It was more so, you know, just kind of putting the cherry on top and making the presentation look nice. That's all I had to finish
So
up
once
with
again,
that.
they're fitting in with your needs.
Yeah.
Exactly, for sure. And I think that that is definitely something to like be of note, because some people are like, but what if I don't need someone to help me with my tutoring? What if I've done that? It's like,
It's
you
not
don't
a
have to
cookie
have
cutter
it.
thing.
Yeah.
It'll be
Exactly.
you.
And it's never too late to join. I mean, I've heard of kids that joined in July, year 12, so you don't need to start in year 10. You can join at any time, and they will cater that package for you.
Yeah, I think they have had, well, like you mentioned your friend Max,
Yeah.
joined 3
Joined a bit
months
late,
before.
yeah.
Very late. Yeah, no, but he did very well.
He's going to
Chicago.
Yeah.
Fantastic
Yeah.
school. Yeah.
So one last question. If you had a piece of advice for other young students who are thinking about this path, what Chris would you say to them? What would be your words of advice to somebody a couple of years younger than you?
Yeah, so obviously, I mean, neither of us were the optimal situation that we planned. I mean, we all started at different times, and there's always, you know, different types of people. But I think my main thing that I would pass on is definitely to start as early as possible. And in that sense, I don't mean writing your application essay or your ACTs in year 10. I mean, you really just have to have to think for what's coming up ahead. And I think if you can start planning what you've got to do in year 10, I mean, that's year 10, year 9, then you're set to go. Because obviously you can't fake your extracurriculars, and that's the one thing which you have got to show you've done since year 9, 10. And that's why if you don't have that goal in mind, you might not be doing that in year 9 and 10, where you can sort of muck around a bit. So, and I think it also is very important to have that planning later on, because you do have to book your tests in advance. You don't want to you don't want to have to be flying interstate to sit an ACT because it's all booked
Because
out.
they do fill up pretty
That's
fast.
definitely
They
not
and they
ideal.
fill out very quickly. So that's why you do have to plan all of these things ahead, so you don't find yourself in those situations. And also it's very important so that you can keep on top of all this work that's coming in year 12. If you have a goal, if you have a plan to reach that goal, then you'll know exactly what to do, when, and you're not going to get caught up in it all when it's
Exactly.
all going to
So
go
what
terribly.
you're saying, you probably agree, Ali, is if the earlier you start, the less pressure it is at the back end.
And there are things that you can get done early, like your ACT. You can probably nail that and finish it by year 11, and then that would be a huge relief later.
And that's
on.
ticked. Yeah.